What's happening, everyone? Happy Friday to you. This is From A to B, presented to you by Osmo.com. I'm Andrew, that's Ben. We are going to talk about sports with you today. Specifically, we're going to break down the NFL main slate. We're going to talk a little college football. Maybe at the end, we might talk about a little bit of how the golf's going. We're certainly sweating that right now. We're back to being distracted by what's happening in the golf world as far as cuts and all of that on Friday afternoons, which that will be the case going forward. We have not been in a time where golf mattered on Fridays or was even going on when we were playing or when we were on the show the last month or so. So back to that.
Cut sweats are back. We'll get to that later in the show. It's going to be interesting. Guys will be finishing from the morning wave throughout this show.
Yep, Bronson Burgoon will have officially missed, and I'll be
hopefully Ryan Blom, Nick Taylor, get on through for me. Anyway,
who are those people?
We do have after that stellar showdown game last night. Now we got real football to talk about. Good 10-game slate. There's some big games on this one.
Yeah, did you catch any of that game last night? Any takeaways?
Honestly, the play I took away most was that Mustard breaking his arm. That was pretty bad. That was an ugly one.
Mostert? Okay.
Yeah. So I saw, it was 14-3 early, and I was watching the NBA.
Yeah, Nick Mullins crushing, man. Good
he
stuff.
Looked good. I mean, probably more the Raiders than anything else, but good for him. He was sharp.
Yeah. I watched Zero. I mentioned on the show last night. I went out to dinner. Was not really, I was box score watching a little bit, but
You didn't miss much.
Yeah, I don't think I did. I don't feel bad about that one. You gotta pick and choose every once in a while. You gotta make time for other things in your life. So
balance, so they say.
Yeah, and Raiders 49ers on Thursday night is certainly
that's
time
at the bottom of any totem pole, no matter what your balance is.
Get that work-life balance back. Yeah, so funny week this week. I think positionally it's going to be, it's always interesting. Trying not to say it's going to be interesting, but it's going to be. Running back is not super obvious this week. I think it has been almost all year. There's been a lot of dudes in really good spots. I don't think that's really the case this week. We'll get there, but want to start off with quarterback? Seems like the obvious thing to do.
Sure. It's obviously, I think at this point it's pretty safe to say quarterback every week is the deepest. You can make a case for a large portion of the field. They're priced very similarly. I've been on Cam the entire year. I'm not going to stop now. The difference is this is going to be a situation where I've been on Cam Island, sub 5%, 1%. He's going to be very popular this week.
Right. Well, that's the thing. I think against what you were just saying about how, it's always deep. There are a lot of plays. This week, it's very different. Like, Cam is in a tier by himself. That's not usually the case. Usually we got, 4 or 5 dudes in play. Or, almost everyone is in play at quarterback, to be honest, because they have quarterbacks generally have a pretty high floor. Not everyone, not the total crap fest, but usually there's some 5K guys. This week, it's just like, you lock in Cam and cash. I think I'm gonna try to get over the field in tournaments, even though I wouldn't be surprised if he's like 15-20% owned, that's mega chalk in tournaments. But I think the one thing that may hold him back a little is Cam's a bit of a tough guy to pair with dudes.
He's also the easiest to solo though.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's what might keep his ownership down a little bit though, because I think most people just roll with the stack and Sure, Cam, McCaffrey, Olsen kind of stacks will be popular. But, yeah, Cam is definitely someone you can play by himself. And the reason he's such a great value a lot of the time, but especially this week, is he gets, he's a legitimate goal line back, too. It's not just most quarterbacks are going to get 10% of the rushing touchdowns or something like that. Cam gets a lot more than that. They actually call running plays for Cam at the 3-yard line. That's not really the case with anybody else, unless it's Tom Brady at the half-yard line will sneak it in. But
no, yeah, absolutely. Honestly, and this is a situation where we'll see with ownership as we get closer to lock. I almost worry that in a game like this, they are less inclined. I said last week repeatedly, they're playing the Ravens. That's the kind of game where Cam really takes it upon himself, especially in the red zone. He's not afraid to rush. this is a game where, the Bucks, that defense is atrocious. I wouldn't be stunned to see Carolina get out ahead, and that's where Cam's rushing upside is limited. Those are the first plays that go. Still think well in play, not saying don't play him because of that, but if this game can stay competitive and if Carolina really has to, run that offense to its fullest extent, Cam's involved in every aspect. You're literally just fading McCaffrey rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, so I've got, like in the projections, we've got Cam at 0.57 touchdowns, so a little more than half a touchdown, 3.2 points or something like that, or 3.4 points. If you were to take that away, he's literally the same expected scoring outcome as Patrick Mahomes, who is number 2 by a long shot. So even if you take away the rushing touchdown from Cam, like, he projects similarly to Mahomes, like, and it's just he's quite a bit clear of everyone else this week. So
no, I'm with you. Obviously, we're going to be going through position by position. Chat, if you have questions, drop them in there. We do have one question, different sport. This is an NFL show. I'll throw my sport behind Kawhi though for Matthew Baker. But yeah, we're talking Curry, Durant, or Kawhi.
Oh, okay.
But we're breaking down NFL.
I don't have the NBA projections up in front of me, but you can go over to awesemo.com and check those out. That will give you
the best
my
place
answer.
to look.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Working down though, obviously, if you can afford Cam, I think we both agree that's where you want to go. I'm going back to Baker. I know they're in turmoil. 2 weeks ago, I was on him against the Bucks. It was a weird game. He still got there easily. Sub 6K at home. Chiefs defense is bad. I think it's a pretty safe spot, honestly. Floor seems good, and they fall behind, which I think Kansas City's at 8 or 9. I saw in terms of a spread. Baker's going to be playing some catch up. He can move a little. Feel pretty good about that one as well.
Yeah, I do like that. I certainly have some interest in Baker. I think the game script should favor him. The one thing I will say is, I don't know how great. We've seen Mahomes has come back to earth a little bit. He's still putting up phenomenal numbers, but he's really starting to. We're seeing some of the bad decision making you and I were a little bit worried about earlier in the year, and obviously he's been beyond anyone's expectations. He's been phenomenal, and I would certainly think that Kansas City could roll them. But Cleveland is a pretty wild defense. They've got a few really good talents. They've got some really good edge rushers, and they've got a couple really good, ball hawking cornerbacks that make plays. So there's potential, and not only that, like maybe most importantly, they've got their defensive coordinator running this clown show now, and this guy is a legendary clown. It's Greg Williams, the Bounty Gate guy. Like, he invented a defense, or I don't even think he invented it, right? Did he invent the whole the Tampa thing? It wasn't him, right? Whatever.
I thought it was Monty Kiffin, but
yeah, that's who I was thinking of.
Okay.
But it's it was solved a million years ago by most people.
Yeah. He's running an outdated defense. There's no doubt.
But you know what it is? It's a crazy, blitzing, weird defense with a bunch of playmakers on that defense. And on the whole, they have not been a particularly good defense. But, it's going to be a weird challenge, I think, for Mahomes. And, they will potentially confuse him. We've thought that before, and it hasn't worked. But that's my concern a little bit with Baker, honestly, is that if, the Chiefs defense or the Cleveland defense at home forces Mahomes into a couple dumb things. I think it's a crazy, weird tournament play to potentially do Browns defense, Nick Chubb kind of stuff. Because Chubb rates as an amazing value. You're just worried with him if they get rolled. He's not going to do anything.
Yeah, I'm more, and I know we're going position by position, so we're trying to stay. But I will say I think that the Chiefs attack more with Kareem Hunt, and we'll get to him and can mitigate some of that. I'm not saying this is a runaway Chiefs victory. I just think that Baker is just one of those guys, inefficient to the point that it helps you. I wouldn't be stunned if he makes some mistakes, and that could be a good thing.
I would be stunned if he doesn't make some mistakes, but you're hoping for the Chiefs to roll for Baker.
Oh, absolutely.
And especially if the Chiefs are up big, and they're a bad defense, and quarterbacks get a lot of their, you need quarterbacks to be throwing for touchdowns because just yardage is really tough to get it done. So Baker, hopefully they're from behind. They're throwing a lot. The Chiefs are not laying off the gas, but like playing sort of Chiefs-y-in and like letting some plays happen. And Baker throws for 375 and a couple 3 scores, along with, a sack, fumble, and 2 picks. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's I kind of can see that game getting like that, even if it's not a full-on track meet.
Yep. Really like Mahomes on the other side of the ball too. I think he's set up to do really well, but that's obviously, it's Patrick Mahomes. Tyreek Hill has been limited in practice all week. Sounds like he's going to play, but worth noting.
Yeah, we're going to talk about, I've had a couple people asking, and Spencer in the chat just asked as well, is it a spend-up tight end kind of week? It's always tough to do that because that in defense are like the first positions that I think most people look to save. Travis Kelce, though, we'll get there. I think that's an interesting concept, though.
Yep. Other quarterbacks that are, I think Kirk Cousins, great spot, as always. Like, that guy puts up monster fantasy numbers. Really like him against the new look Lions.
What about Stafford?
Say what?
What about Stafford on the other side?
That's potentially interesting, but I think Stafford is going to be more popular than he should be, just because the best 2 wide receiver plays on the board are with him. So he's gonna get tied to them in stacks and tournaments. So Minnesota's still a pretty decent defense. Like, they've struggled this year, but they got Everson Griffin back. I'm not like I'm a little scared of it for the Lions side, and I think it will be more popular than it normally would be, or should be, basically.
I agree with that part. We'll obviously get there too. For quarterback, again, it's not the best one to break down. I'll kind of build around my quarterbacks, with some other positions and see what I'm left with. If I can get up to Cam, great. If I need a middle range guy, I'll pair him with one of my receivers or take a Baker-esque price range guy.
Yeah. Last guy I'll say at quarterback that is popping quite a bit. He's done this before, so be wary. But Alex Smith at home against the miserable Atlanta defense. They're projecting for north of 24 points. He's super cheap. It's a bummer Chris Thompson's out. We'll get to Adrian Peterson. He's missing weapons. Trent Williams is gonna miss this week, who's their big time left tackle. But Atlanta's screwed on defense. So and Washington is in a spot where they could really, Matt Ryan is not the same person when he's outside, and it's starting to get it's chilly on the East Coast now. Not here, man.
Yeah, Washington's been a letdown in terms of Alex Smith, and they're just playing. They play really slow, and they're methodical, and it's working. We'll see. That's one. You want to go right to running backs, because I think we summed up and just start with AP.
Yeah, that's it for me for quarterback.
Okay. Yeah, just to continue the Redskin point, they just have really found something. Obviously, with Adrian Peterson, he's handling a ridiculous workload. I assume that their plan of attack is to start with him, and if he can handle another 25 carries, do that. Alex Smith, his best attribute is he did this in Kansas City. He doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't lose the game for you. If Atlanta can push them, I think it can open up a little, because this is the kind of defense you're 100% right. They're battered. They just, they caught the injury bug. A couple teams get that every year. But are you into AP? The price, it kind of feels point chasing-esque.
Yeah, it does to me, I think. It's a bummer because the Atlanta thing, obviously, the pass-catching running backs thing is totally real. Peterson's still not catching passes. So, I have not played him once all year, so I don't think I'm going to, necessarily jump there right now. It's a good spot, if they get up, and I'm with you. Yeah, they will try to run on him, but I don't know. That's not necessarily the way that you would like to attack Atlanta. Chris Thompson is still out. That's really a bummer. He's the guy you would love to play in this spot, but can't do it. We've got who is what I should know this. Who's even is it Samaje Perine or
Bibbs?
Bibbs,
yeah. But it's again, they just don't run enough plays, and the game script. It's a pretty tough sell. He did have one game, Bibbs, where he caught, a nice screen pass, took it to the house. I I don't think you can really go there, to be honest, though.
I think if you're going to do that, then you're looking at like, okay, this is. I actually think that's sort of fine more in a, if you want to play like Matt Ryan, Julio Jones stacks, which those should be fairly under the radar. I don't think they're necessarily great plays because Ryan is significantly worse outdoors, but that's when your Capri Bibbs situation comes into play. Atlanta puts up points. Washington's playing from behind. The natural place to attack Atlanta is over the middle. It also we'll get to tight end, but stupid Jordan Reed is popping up again.
That guy.
And it's just that over the middle of the field is really where you attack Atlanta. So I don't know. Some interest in that game, but Adrian Peterson's a little. Maybe I'm being stubborn, but I'm just not a fan anymore. He's old.
Yeah,
Passes.
Yeah, he caught a touchdown last week. That was very fluky. Like I said, he showed last week he's got something left, but 6K is different than 4,500 in a lot of situations, and he's gonna have to find the end zone and have enough. I just don't know how big that upside is. I would rather pay, not that it's the same ballpark, but it's the next tier up. Give me that 7K range last week was really the way to attack. It was like Connor, Mix, and Hunt. I mixed and matched them. A lot of people did. I know you did as well, and that was great. It feels similar to me. Once again, here you got Christian McCaffrey, Kareem Hunt, Kamara, who I thought Kamara was going to be like 8,500. Maybe I'm off base. I like all those guys pretty heavily.
Yeah, it's very similar to the last. I guess I would push back a little bit. I think it's similar in the like those are where the good plays are, but they're far less good plays than they were last week. You know what I mean? Like Mixon, Connor, Hunt were in amazing situations last week. These guys, there's significant question. Like all of them are either like, on the road, bad matchup, weird workload. You can make a case against them much easier than you could last week against Connor and Mixon were just auto plays last week.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll say this. I think that ownership is going to go more dispersed than what we saw last week on that same point. So there's some risk. I feel pretty comfortable, though. Kamara, I don't think it's a workload issue. I really don't.
Yeah. Atlanta, the Rams have a miserable linebacking crew too, which is helpful for
running
like Kamara.
Mark Ingram up the middle would be possibly the worst idea. I'm not saying he's not going to be involved. I'm just saying they are going to get Kamara is going to get his. We saw against Minnesota. I think that's what we see again.
Yeah, I don't know about that though, because Donald's not much of a run. Like Sue is the run stopper on that team. Donald's too small to really be one. But I guess with New Orleans, they're a little bit like. It's a little bit like that Packers situation where they have a really good offensive line and a really good pass blocking offensive line, but it's more because their tackles are really good and they're a little bit weaker on the interior, very similar to what Green Bay is. And we saw, Donald made a couple really important plays that swung that game against that Packers interior. Could happen against New Orleans. The Rams are not favorites. I don't know that that's certainly hasn't happened in a while.
1 point dog. That's a game. Gurley, it's the same story every week. I'm not getting burned by not using him in tournaments. There's just so many other options. You take the savings. You can allocate that elsewhere. Unless I, for some reason, have an extra salary. I don't really want to pay all the way up. I would much rather go to these guys.
New Orleans is a tough run defense at home.
Yeah, tough run. Exactly. Like I said, I'm really into Kamara this week.
Kamara's my favorite play too. I'm just saying, Connor is someone I've played almost every week this year. He's been in just great spots. This is a tough one for him. Baltimore is a pretty overrated defense, but they are a really good run defense. They've just got these giant statues on the line. And that's what I mean with the Rams. They don't have the giant statues on the line, so they're not necessarily the craziest run defense. They have sick pass rushers. Baltimore isn't a great pass rushing team because they just have these big. It's a different skill set to run stop versus the pass block.
Yeah, Connor
pass rush. So
Connor's the one I'd probably have the most concern with. Christian McCaffrey, though, we talked about Carolina. Carolina's in the spot. The Bucs defense, you can attack anywhere. That's a game people are going to stack. Fitzmagic, those types on the other side. I get that, but Carolina, I'm just really bullish on them in all areas. I like that defense. I know they're not as good as they were, but that's a team I'm high on, and McCaffrey is certainly in the mix to be a staple of my lineups.
Yeah, I like McCaffrey a lot. What are your thoughts on McCaffrey and Cam? Do you find the do you
Oh
want to?
yeah.
But they are to some degree competing with each other's ceilings because of the rushing touchdown thing.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, they are, of course, it's not ideal, but just, I mean, Christian McCaffrey can easily get it via the receive. It's a very reasonable outcome that they get him involved in the passing game.
Yeah, he
Uh,
gets his 6, 7 targets every week.
mhm. I, I'll say this: they're a little more expensive to pair together, just because you're right. You know, if one of them is rushing it in, that's going to hurt the other one. So I've paired up Cam and McCaffrey before. I think you can do it.
Yeah.
It's not overly appealing though. It's just I'm going to have a lot of Carolina all over my lineups.
Yeah, I think I will as well. Let me see. Do you have any interest or like do you have thoughts on Melvin Gordon on the road in Seattle?
You're going to get great ownership, of course.
Mm-hmm.
It's tricky. He's been off the mind because they were on bye. I think they played in London.
Where he just casually 38 donged.
Yeah, he just like does his thing and then chills. I'm just a little worried at like where he's at. It's a tough one. I think that's a lot of risk. If I make enough teams, maybe I take a sliver, but it's tough to imagine him outscoring. There's a It's not one guy in the sevens that I like. I like a handful of them. So do I get up to Gordon? He has to outscore most of those guys to make that worth my while.
Yeah, I just kind of like the idea of like Gordon and Kamara. 'Cause, I mean, he is quite like Gordon is quietly putting up like nearly Gurley-esque numbers. Like he is destroying teams. And KJ Wright comes back this week. That should help. But Seattle, I think and it's at home. Seattle's always, they could run out. Who's the freaking Packers backup that got like the giant contract from them? Russell Wilson's rookie year. Remember he played for Rodgers because the Packers had a bye like week 17. Matt Flynn, does that sound right?
Oh, the quarterback?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They could run him out there and like Seattle would be tough at home. So it is a weird situation, but Gordon is a little bit game script independent. So like whether they're trailing, if they're trailing, he could easily pick up 10, 12 targets. If they're winning, he could run it in 3 times. So
yeah, I'm just worried about where he's at. Like if he's limited in any way, obviously I don't want to.
Okay. I didn't know what you meant by at.
Yeah, no, he's been banged up.
No, I think he's in Seattle.
Yeah, he will be there, dressed and ready to go. Just Eckler's good enough where they could scale back Melvin Gordon a little, and I don't think they would have a big drop off on the team. For your fantasy though, you'd be toast if that becomes more of a time split.
Hasn't he been hurt all year though?
I think it's been worse. Didn't they hold him out? I could be wrong. I'll have to check that, but he's again. I mean, that's one leading up to lock. If I have
he didn't play week. They were on bye last week, and he didn't play week 7.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. So he's had plenty of time. It's just where exactly is he at?
Just strikes me as a buy spot. That's all. And it's I think it's going to be really good ownership. People are a little bit scared. They have like you said, they haven't seen him in a while. The upside's just through the freaking roof. So I'm gonna cautiously bite a little bit, especially if he's like 5% owned. I got no problem going 20% on that just in case. Because I think there are. And again, this is running back. Usually the chalk is the damn chalk for a reason, and that's where you bite. You eat the chalk and you figure it out somewhere else. I don't know that that's as much the case this week. Like I was saying, there's significant downside in almost all of these guys. So I don't think he's going to beat all 5 of those dudes, but I don't think he's going to beat all 5 of those dudes by those 5 dudes failing. But if 2 of them fail and he goes nuke, like it's certainly in the realm of possibility. That's all.
Yeah, working down like. You have any love for Latavius Murray? 3 straight big games now. At home, I think they control this game. It's the kind of guy I think he might find his way into my cash lineups, and that's scary for me.
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
he picked up targets last week, but he has not ever really done that.
No, I don't even think. Um, the 6 targets, 5 receptions last week's more of an outlier. I think you get a handful of them, and he's finding the end zone. He's running just effectively right now. The Lions' defense is a sieve. They're terrible.
They did pick up like the
Snacks.
premier run stopper in the league. Like that's
Yeah.
it's something. It's not like, again, that's not going to turn them into a good defense, but that makes every single person involved in the running game's job easier because he goes into the top spot. And now the formerly best guy goes into the second best spot, and then the formerly, et cetera, et cetera. So it does have a ladder effect. And
no,
and also Dalvin Cook's coming back this week, so I don't think I'm into Latavius.
If Dalvin Cook, that's again something I would have to weigh in. But if Latavius has the backfield to himself, I would look into that. Not looking to if Dalvin Cook comes back and is ready to go, I think it's a pretty easy fade spot because he's just looking, box score searching. You see Latavius, he's putting up numbers right now, and ownership will be there in some form.
Yeah, I don't think he's like back, but he could, if he comes back and just plucks off a third of the workload, that's enough to make me
same. There's not a ton of cheapies down here.
There were a couple that stood out to me. I mean, one is let me see here. What Chris Carson. Joey Bosa's not walking through that door. This is the other end of that argument. I think they are heavily negatively correlated for the most part. Again, there is a possibility of Chris Carson gets his, Seattle is kicking ass, and Melvin Gordon picks up 10, 12 targets from behind. But if they are running all over the Chargers for some reason, which I don't think is totally out of the realm of possibility, then Seattle's going to slow the game down. They're going to take up a lot of clock. They're not going to run a ton of plays. But Chris Carson at 4,700, it's not crazy. It might be crazy enough to work. You know what I mean, man?
I see what you did there. Yeah, I mean, they're running him a lot. It's weird. He's getting the volume, yet it's not his backfield. They've got other guys. Seattle's been an enigma the entire year for me. Wilson hasn't been running. I will be the first to say they have looked much better than I thought they would. Yeah, I mean, 4,700. I don't think it's certainly in play. I don't feel great about it just because there's still a lot of unknowns with that offense. I don't know how he's getting the work right now, and he's been getting it. They still have some other backs. If they fall behind, how effective and involved will he be? But on the whole, I don't think I'm going to be spending a ton down at running back. There's some value elsewhere. And I like I said, I just keep repeating it. I really like that range that we just discussed. So I'm going to have the majority of my plays come from there.
Okay. What about your hometown team's starting running back? I think he's legitimately in play. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he runs hard. He gets the work. They've been so far behind that.
Right.
The thing is, we say this and we've seen this with him recently. He is so live for the whatever your yards is.
Sure.
Move the decibel point, and that's the points because he doesn't do anything in the passing game. You got to find the end zone. Miami's defense, not anything
It's horrible. Their only good defensive line players are teeny tiny pass rusher types.
Again, there's a couple guys down here, and you just named probably two of my favorite. If I get into a jam and I need to pay down, I don't mind it, but I'm really not looking to do that. I think it's pretty touchdown. Jordan Howard, those types. You got to find the end zone.
Of course, I'm not saying you don't. I'm just saying he's 4,200, and there's a legit, jet steamroll kind of situation. I'm interested in Kenyon Drake on the other side of the ball. These are not like. These are bad teams. Like one of them could get out to a big lead and crush the other one, and that's where you end up with one of those starting running backs had 20 carries for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, both of these guys are super game script dependent.
Yep.
And with
they're
the
both
range
live for 3 points, which is why they're so cheap.
Yeah. And that's in a GPP portfolio. Sign me up. So yeah, again, it's going to be lineup build dependent for there's some games like that. We're getting to the point now we know what these teams are, and when two garbage team plays, like last night, they're a beatdown by the Niners. If the Raiders would have smoked the Niners, I wouldn't have been surprised. The range of outcomes on those games is just enormous.
Yeah, definitely. But like Doug, last night Doug Martin was super high owned in that because that's what people thought was going to happen, and it didn't. But like that's why he was so popular. And the same idea here. If that Jets and Dolphins game is a blowout, one way or the other, then I think Crowell or Drake is going to get work. So, they're both, bell cowish type backs. They're not big pass catchers necessarily, but they're guys that are going to get the work. And if one team beats the other handily, I think that one of them could easily get a 20-point game at 3-5% ownership in the $4,000 range. When everyone's paying up for these other guys, which you can still do that, right? You can still play a couple of those guys in the more premier spots, but
yeah, no, I mean a flex if there's a third running back. That's a good point. I wanted to bring this up. Thank you, Seth. Elijah McGuire, I believe, is back this week. He is going to be involved for the Jets. I don't think that takes Crowell out of the picture, but going forward, that's a guy that I'm actually going to be really interested in. I'm not playing him this week. He's a player, though. I've always liked that guy.
Right. No, McGuire has zero impact on Crowell's workload. Yeah. They do different things, so that doesn't really matter. Crowell is the it's worth pointing out. Yeah, I did notice that too, but it just that's going to, if anything, just drive the ownership down further, and it has literally zero bearing on Crowell. He's just the first and second down guy, and it's the only. Listen, he is more likely to get 3.8 points than 25, but he has a real shot if they just roll him to get 25. So you're not seeing that upside with many other guys in the $4,000 range. So
fair enough. All right, wide receiver. Do you want to start with the most obvious question, which is?
Do we want to talk Nick Chubb first? There's one other there's one of the last value guy at running back. Do you have any interest whatsoever there?
I don't. I really don't. Do I see it? Yes. The Kansas City's defense, they're not good, and what they are good at, it's not particularly what would hurt Nick Chubb. I'm still just a little skeptical of him, how often he's really going to get a full. Or I'm a Duke Johnson guy. I feel like that could cannibalize it, and the price when it was sub 4K, yeah, I can see it. Not for me this week. I think that the Chiefs get out in front and Nick Chubb is rendered useless.
I think the Chiefs get out in front too, but Nick Chubb is going to be, he's 4,700 and he's going to be 3-5% owned. There's it's a better than 1 in 20 chance that Cleveland gets out to a lead, or even, maybe not wins the game, but I think Cleveland defense with Chubb is like a crazy tournament play that could work, that is more likely to work than the ownership it'll have. That's it. I just think it's a slightly positive EV move. I think it's clearly far more likely that the Chiefs just kill him. But
yeah, and it's not even. I'll put it. Maybe I should make my point a little differently. I think even if the game is competitive, then Nick Chubb doesn't have a great game. I still think that what you're saying, if he's sub 5%, you could see even me, even though I'm not in love with it, use him with the defense, and that's a specific, script at low ownership. But on the whole, I also think that his ownership could be maybe a little higher, say like 8%. And that's, I think, a difference worth noting. Now, we're splitting hairs, of course, but.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, with all three of these guys I was just talking about, Drake, Crowell, Chubb, all of them are likely to not turn in great games.
I mean,
obviously, this is true of every single player we're going to discuss. They're more likely to not do well than they are to do well. But especially with those guys, like specifically those guys, the reason they're so cheap is because they have horrid floors, because they're very touchdown dependent. But also, if their teams get in the right situation, those are the dudes they're going to try to punch it in with. So I think all three of them are, could easily fall in the end zone twice. And that's certainly something worth looking towards.
Fair enough. I mean, I totally get that. There's a lot of guys that are in that bucket I may like Chris Carson, kind of in that. But I like him more than someone like Chubb.
Huh. Yeah, that's fair. But Chris Carson is also he's only 600 more than Chubb.
Yeah. See, like I would find the money there, or go down to Crowell.
Yeah, I'm just saying Chubb does rate out as a better value because he is a little more unquestioned as the leader of the workload, but his script is more likely to go against him. So fair point. Fair point.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was. Seattle at home. All right. Do you have anyone else? I didn't. Like I said, I didn't have a ton of value in the running back range, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I think the larger point here, specifically this week, is like those 7K guys are not smashes like they have been in the past. They're not like obvious plays. There's ways for all of them to fail that I don't think have really been there in the past. So it's at least interesting to me to try and pick up a little value and go with some wackier plays. I like the 7K guys the most. There's a reason they're $3,000 more expensive, but they don't all have particularly awesome matchups necessarily.
Okay. No, all right. Well,
I mean, let's get into this. You were pushing back on this pretty hard.
No, I'm not even pushing back. I just it's pretty simple. I think that it's closer than you do in terms of the 7K guys from last week and this week. Yeah, a little more risk, but I feel just as comfortable.
I mean, James Conner was at home against Cleveland last week, and this week he's on the road in Baltimore, and he's the same price.
He's distinctly last, though. Like, I'm talking McCaffrey, Kamara, and Hunt. Like, those three, I see no problems with any of them. Not worried about any of them.
Well, Hunt was last week Hunt was at home against the team that's had a lot of trouble against the run, and this week they're on the road against a team that's pretty good against the run, and he's more expensive.
What? They're playing Cleveland this week.
Yeah.
That's the same team that James Conner murdered last week.
Yeah, at home.
I mean, yeah, it doesn't help that they're in Cleveland, but I still think the way Hunt's catching the ball, and again, if I had to rate him, he would be third. Like, for me, it's Kamara, McCaffrey, Hunt, Conner.
Okay. They're fine. I just like.
No, I know. I mean, that's just the difference.
Matchup, like Mixon was in a crazy smash spot last week.
I know. I loved them. I loved both of them, just like you did. It was. Yes, I'll acknowledge there's more risk. I'm not saying there's not more risk, but I still am prioritizing those 7K guys in my lineups.
As am I. My only point here is that the 7K guys are not in as quality spots as they were last week. Therefore, there is potential to pivot with some like wacky, cheaper guys that you're looking to fall in the end zone a couple times.
Okay. No, fair enough. Can we talk about Marvin Jones? I've been waiting to talk about these bum receivers from the Lions.
Okay, let's do it.
So, what's the deal here? What do you think happens? Obviously, Golden Tate's gone. They're going to be super popular. One, and this would be a question for you and not me. Do you have any inclination on what Xavier Rhodes is going to do? Because that's my number one question.
I mean, he probably plays Jones, and if he beats him at the line, then he's going to neutralize him. And if he gets beat at the line like he did last Thanksgiving, then Jones is going to hang, 150 on him, and everyone's going to be like, "Oh, Xavier Rhodes shut down corner." It's Rhodes has like a much tougher job than other like quote unquote shutdown corners. He gets into guys at the line, and if he doesn't immediately get them like way off the road, he's running. It's more like the slot cornerback's job where he's following the guy the entire time. The cover three guys, like, they back off and they can sort of just like see where they think the ball's going to go, and they play a little more instinctually. They don't have to be on the guy, like in the guy's pocket all the time, every play. So Rhodes has a very tough job. He's a press corner. So if he gets beat on that, which Marvin Jones is certainly talented enough to beat him, then it could be a long day for him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, me like everyone else, I'm certainly going to have some Galladay. I don't know if I'm going to want to chase. We'll have to see what happens, of course, still till Sunday. I don't think I'm going to try to chase TJ Jones or whoever is the next man up in this, for third receiver. Mm-hmm. That seems like something that we're not going to know and people are going to infer, and that could be an ownership fade for me. But unlike, the running backs where I said I kind of like that top end, the mid range, that 5K with Funchess and those guys, I'm gonna mix and match in there.
Okay. Isn't the who is the there was another guy. I read some report on this and I wish I'd written down his name. Oh, Brandon Powell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's from Florida. He's more of a prototypical slot guy.
Yeah.
But again, and I don't, of course, I don't know the answer to this. You have TJ Jones, who's been in Detroit for a while now, so like familiar with the system. He's done some things against the guy who probably long term is the answer. Who gets the first crack? Do they split it? I don't know. They're really cheap, of course, but there's a lot of risk there.
Yeah, there certainly is. I mean, they don't have.
What?
I'm just trying to think about this. TJ Jones is definitely much more of an outside guy. I don't see him necessarily like sliding. Like no one's taking the Tate role exactly. The guy who's most likely to do it would be Theo Riddick. Is he? But is he? I don't think he's playing this week again, right?
I don't know for sure, but I believe that he's more likely to not play.
It's wild stuff, man. They are. I think there's room for one of them to do well. I might be interested in taking a shot on Brandon Powell just to see what happens. That Tate role was very, very productive over the years.
Huh. Well, I mean, yeah, that's just a plunge again. That's going to be something I'm going to check our ownership on the site. And if the guy is non-existently owned and it looks like he might have a chance to have a role, I might roll the dice. This is a situation where we've seen this before where it's like, oh, this guy is going to get some work. And we're not sure and the ownership is amassing. If I don't need to take the savings, I'll probably build more balanced. Even Doug Baldwin, who's been perpetually letting me down, he's in that 5K range. There's some good GPP plays in there.
Mm-hmm.
Peyton Barber. We did have a question about Peyton Barber for running backs. I have no interest there. I'm not messing around with the Bucks running game. Just not for me.
Yeah, I'm not likely to go there either. Slight positive value in the projections, but it's super sketchy. I'd much rather, like if I'm dumpster diving, I'd rather think that Miami or New York is going to blow the other one out.
Yeah, good point. I don't see anything can happen, but the Bucks on the road, that's a tough sell for me.
Exactly. And it's not like you're getting an owner. I think Peyton Barber almost will be more popular just because he's going to project better because of the workload situation.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. God, I'm just scrolling up and down. Like, there's just a ton of play. It's not a great, like, for cash, I'm just thinking of. I don't see much that stands out. It's just a lot of kind of high risk, high reward. Like, Devontae Parker is in the 4s.
Well, isn't your cash decision already made for you? I feel like this is a tough cash week because it's like you just play the Golladay and Jones and Sutton and then figure out the rest of your lineup?
So you're gonna play both Lions receivers in cash, maybe?
I mean, they're both $5,000. Do you feel strongly about picking one of them? Because I sure as hell don't.
It's not that I feel strongly about picking one of them, but I don't know. I don't really love taking both of them because I know are you going to play Stafford and cash even with them both? No. See, and I know you don't have to do that.
You have to play Cam and cash. Like if you don't not playing Cam and cash is a pretty big fuck up. I think.
I agree. Cam and cash, Sutton and cash, those guys I get, and for me, Golladay. I think Marvin Jones is a little more lower floor, higher ceiling, and I could get away from him in cash.
Unless he hits a ceiling, because he's going to be 40-50% owned in cash.
But, okay, and you talk about this all the time. In maybe more aggressive cash-like games, I'd be much more willing to make that my stand.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Triple ups, stuff like that. You could get maybe in double ups, I take that as a quote-unquote block, and then...
Yeah, I think a double ups playing both of them is totally fine. And if you have a strong feeling that, or even a mild feeling that Golladay is going to do better, or we'll hear more about who gets Waynes and who gets. But Waynes is like fine now. He was a kind of a disaster a couple of years ago, but he's like a league average cornerback now, and he's super big and fast, and isn't like a total bonehead. So, that makes it a little bit different. But again, in head-to-heads, I think that's where you take that stand if you think Golladay is going to be better, then switch that up. Agree that playing 2 wide receivers without the quarterback is like a weird bad correlation situation. So, but that's not a big deal in double ups.
No, and that's something that I say a lot on the show. You've said it, and you're the first person who told me about it. I'm sure other people have come up with this too. But in case people are listening, do you want to just what? No, you invented that. That's yours.
Come up with it. I don't know. What are you gonna say? What?
Can you speak about that real quickly, just to people? That's an important thing. If you are playing cash, you can structure head-to-heads and say like boosters and things like that differently from your double ups.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know what you were talking. I didn't even know where you were going.
It's a really interesting thing, and a lot of people don't. I know I had never heard that, and it makes a ton of sense to me.
Yeah. So like you're just basic vanilla. You're like I guess the easiest way to look at it, just the difference between a 50-50 and a head-to-head, right? Like a head-to-head, you're trying to beat someone, and like you're playing a ton of head-to-heads. So you're trying to win a high percentage of them, right? Head-to-heads have the highest floor because even if you have a 40th percentile lineup, in theory you should still win 40% of your head-to-heads. But if you have a 90th percentile lineup, or 99th percentile, you can sweep your head-to-heads, and there's an incentive to be more aggressive in head-to-heads because how good your team is does directly relate to how much money you can get back. That's not the case in 50-50s, right? You're just trying to beat half the field. It doesn't matter if you beat 55, if you beat 55% of the field. Well, maybe depending on what rake situation you're in.
No, but if you have a 70th percentile lineup in double ups or a 95th percentile in double ups, it doesn't matter. In head-to-heads, it does matter.
Right.
So you have some incentive to be a little more aggressive. And if you're close in cash and it's tough, a lot of times what I do, I split my cash and I take some of it head-to-heads and I say I'm going to go higher risk, higher reward. Not crazy.
Yep.
But yeah, that's a cool thing.
There's triple ups and quintuple ups and 10-man games and the boosters and stuff that often you will enter with your cash lineup. Those are also ones where you're incentivized to do better. So it does make sense to take a bit more of a risk there.
Yeah. All right. Real quick, and then we can get to tight end. We can get some other things going.
We got to keep moving. Whatever. It doesn't really matter. We got tons of time.
Yeah, we're gonna hang out with people. We got Chad Hoppin. We're talking some good stuff. Seth is all about Zay Jones. I have no interest in there. Obviously, don't do that. Nathan Peterman is out of control. Bad. Just starting, we didn't even mention the best player.
We only talked about 3 wide receivers so far.
I think that's the most pertinent area, but just going right to the top. I mean, it's not, do you think you should play Adam Thielen? Obviously, if you can afford him, it's good news. My question was, if Diggs sits, what do you think that does anything to Thielen? I'm less inclined to play him if Diggs sits.
Yeah, I mean, he might get a little extra attention. I don't think Slay goes into the slot, really, which is like their one kind of really good cornerback. Yeah, it hurts a little bit, but man, Aldrick Robinson and Laquan Treadwell are not exactly getting a ton of respect out there. So
I love Laquan Treadwell.
He's bad though. He was awesome in college, and then he broke his leg, and he is not the same player.
Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah, so Thielen, I'm more prone to.
Oh, Riddick is playing for what it's worth.
Ooh, that's a situation, we're going to monitor up until lock. I will revisit that Sunday with Lofty on the game plan. If for anyone watching, definitely check that out. And for all you people in chat, we appreciate you being here. Appreciate it if you could just hit the like button. Great for us. Does more than you would know, or maybe you do know how useful it is, and then help us out. I know about all that stuff.
Subscribe.
Anyway, yeah, subscribe and like. Do you have anyone else here? You know who's the lost man? And you talked about Melvin Gordon. I might just, and again, I don't have a great basis for why I'm doing this. It's just, I think this is a buy low spot for Keenan Allen. It's not going to be on anyone's mind. Price is getting down there. He's 7,300. I know Seattle at home is tough, but they're not what they were in the secondary. And that guy is a monster. I know he hasn't shown it as much this year, I have no problem with him in a kind of balanced build being a part of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of him, but that's a sharp call. He's
Yeah, no,
he's a very similar player to Larry Fitzgerald, who's actually had a lot of success against Seattle over the years, even when they were like dominant defensively.
certainly not a burner, possession, that kind of guy. And I think he is just going to be lost in ownership, in builds. He's just, again, he's not a guy that's been doing much. The Chargers haven't been on the slate. And you see at Seattle, a lot of people still disregard that whole offense, which I think would be a mistake this week.
I like it. Yeah, I'm down. There you go.
Good. Keenan Allen. Let's do it.
Yeah, that's a good one. What about Michael Thomas?
Yeah, I mean,
Drew Brees is going to have to throw this week, you would think.
The problem I have with Michael Thomas, well, it's not a problem, but if you play Kamara and Michael Thomas, you got to play Brees. Maybe I'll have some stacks there. That's just a tough game to stack up. He's crashed back a little to earth in terms of price, thank God, because it was getting ridiculous. I prefer Keenan Allen, I'm not going to lie. They're the same. I just think you're going to get a massive ownership discount. Michael Thomas is in a good spot, so I'm not opposed to using him. The Rams, Peters has not been, I don't know what exactly is wrong, but he has not been great this year. Brees in the dome. I mean, Brees is completing, it's like 80% of his passes, almost. That's absurd. That's a ridiculous thing.
Because he's like, he's playing like Alex Smith in Kansas City or something.
Yeah, they do give him like the easiest. That offense, though, they got a lot of things going on with Taysom Hill and all sorts of formations. Like I said, Michael Thomas, he's a guy that's not going to make or break me. I bet I come in right around the field.
Okay.
Are you like really into him?
Not really.
Okay.
But he's a thought. He's a guy. Antonio Brown, is he going to get totally lost? I mean, he to some degree should, but it's a very tough matchup. But as we know, defense, whatever. Defense is certainly not like a lockdown defense is certainly not as the offense has every advantage. So Antonio Brown is a very good wide receiver,
especially nowadays. Again, it's just he's great. Can he explode? Of course, he can do it. But at Baltimore is not a great matchup.
No.
And it's a premium price. It's not just that you're playing him over other receivers. It's that money can't be used to go get a better tight end, to go get a better running back. So,
but how pissed at yourself are you going to be if we get? It's like what happened with Odell a couple weeks ago, right? Who was he against? The Jaguars? Or no, he wasn't that great against the Jags. Was it like Carolina? I think where he just like exploded and was 3% owned.
I had Odell, but I should have had more, and it's because I allocated to Antonio Brown on that exact week.
Okay, well, this is the exact same situation, except Antonio Brown's going to be 5% owned. Like he's not. No one's going to play him this week.
You're right about that. That the slight difference, and I don't have it in front of me. Odell's price was not this.
Right. It
was a little less. And every dollar counts. I get it. It's for me. I think that Keenan Allen really is going to be a pretty aggressive stand in terms of ownership and whatnot. I don't know how much I'm going to need to do that twice. But if I say Diggs sits and I'm not looking to get to Thielen, the lineups that I would have had with Thielen, Antonio Brown's a very suitable replacement. I take the savings, bump up somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean, he can get 36 points against anybody. Like, it's
not even a question. He's matchup proof, no doubt in my mind.
Juju, I think, again, does have a bit the better matchup. We saw, I mean, and Brown will run in the slot too, but, the one time we really saw a wide receiver light up Baltimore this week, it was A.J. Green with those 1,000,000 touchdowns on the Thursday night game, and he ran them all out of the slot. So Juju is more the slot guy, but Tony will play in there too. And with Tony, it just doesn't matter. He can beat anyone. The issue with Tony is, can Ben hit him? And Ben outdoors in Baltimore, it's historically been a tough matchup. But.
Yeah. Obviously, last thing I just want to say about receivers, we get this every week. The Rams receivers are always in play. They're almost impossible to distinguish. I personally kind of like Brandon Cooks this week. He's always a little more to me risk reward, but him Woods. I think Cup is back. Those guys are interchangeable. You can play them.
Yeah, and they're not. Aren't they a little bit discounted this week? I feel like
They're like
no,
low.
they're all high sixes.
I don't think it's terrible. I don't think discounted's the word, but they're not. I think they're high sixes.
Yep.
Cup's a little lower because he's hurt.
Yep.
Um,
I was gonna say maybe the triple stack, and then yeah, but yep, all the Rams always in play. That's what happens. That game, it's in a dome in New Orleans, the Coors Field of Russell Westbrook's house. Like it's the Superdome used to always do crazy shit. It hasn't been as much lately, just because the Saints are perfectly content to run the ball if teams are going to give it to them. But the Rams should certainly score points, so Drew Brees should have to throw. So this should be a bit of a more exciting DFS game than we've had in New Orleans in a little bit.
I mean, the total's hovering around 60. That's ridiculous.
And I don't know that it's going to be crazy popular, especially because the last real big Brees thing, this is actually worth noting. The last big exposure everyone has, the like taste in everyone's mouth from Drew Brees right now, is his showdown disaster. So.
I still think that game is really going to be popular. Tough to stack though. They're all expensive. So.
Yeah. Last guy I would say is we'll have a few shares of our dear friend Tyler Lockett.
Sure. With Russ or just a standalone?
I'm not really into Russ that much this week. He's been hard to figure out. He's there's that David Moore guy. There's just a lot of dudes there. So I think it's I don't know. But I like the idea of Lockett catching a deep one. I think it could certainly happen. So I will have a little bit. He's really cheap. It's like $5,000.
And he's fine in the end zone. They're looking to him there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Tight end.
Yeah, you want to talk me up with Jordan Reed? He's good and cheap and against Atlanta. And
I mean, it's not that cheap.
Well, compared to tight end's a bit of a pit. So
you got Travis Kelce Island, and the Browns have been good against tight ends. I discount that with Ertz, Gronk, those are not. It's just different. Those are not normal tight ends. I don't read much into it in terms of the stats. So
Kelce goes way further downfield than almost any other tight end.
He's a hybrid. It's a different position. I don't mind that price, $6,600 for him. I think is actually a good one. It's just can you pay there? Now, if you don't, you got your boy Jordan Reed, and I have my boy Greg Olsen. Olsen's gonna get artificially owned because of Cam this week, and I still like it. I get it. I had been stacking them up in the past couple weeks. He's been playing a ton of snaps coming off the broken foot. I think Jordan Reed actually makes a pivot off Greg Olsen this week. I don't know if that's off base, but that's kind of bizarre.
I'm with you. I don't like Greg Olsen this week, and it's mainly because I think it's kind of like what I was saying about Matthew Stafford.
Exactly.
It's I like him fine, but he's going to be more popular than he's worth because people are going for that correlation. So, and Cam specifically is a guy who's not really tied to his weapons, he's less tied to his weapons than just about any other quarterback in the league. Maybe he is. I'm not going to say just about. I'm going to say definitively. He's the least tied to his weapons quarterback in the whole league.
No doubt. He's his own weapon. Yeah. He just does his thing. Not to mention anyway, they have new guys too. They have this DJ Moore guy. They're passing, spreading it around.
Yeah, just stock the fridge with some Oikos, and do your Superman dance. You've seen the yogurt commercials with Cam, right?
No.
You watch so much television. How have you not seen those? I haven't seen him as much this year, but
I see the Stephon Diggs one all the time, which is a good commercial.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
No, he was the one where Cam's in the grocery store eating Greek yogurt.
I'm sure I've seen it. Doesn't ring a bell though.
I do buy those specific ones. They're often 10 for $1 at the
can't beat it.
Bonds down the street. Good deal. Do you like yogurt? We don't have time for this. Tight end.
Do I like yogurt? Not really, but we certainly don't. Olsen does have a great matchup, absolutely. And I'm not saying don't play Greg Olsen. I'm just saying he's going to be higher owned than he would have been as a standalone.
Yes.
And that's because of Cam. There are other options. Jordan Reed is an option. Obviously, Njoku, don't mind that. But scrolling down, do you have talk about? You said Drew Brees left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. Benjamin Watson just got 0.
Yep, sure did. Saw it.
Yeah, saw it with my own eyes. I don't mind. I'm not. For me, luckily, I can say I don't have to say I'm going back there. I avoided that. I could jump on here though. It's in the dome. He's shown time and time again he can find the end zone. That game's gonna be up and down. You have any interest there in taking a little savings?
Definitely. Rams trouble in the middle of the field.
Yep. Cooks. We've seen Cook. We've seen other guys do that.
Yep, like him a lot. I think that's a totally fine play. Yeah. Yeah, and then it's really, for me, it's Watson, and then it's the 4 most expensive dudes: Kelsey, Reed, Olsen. Who, like, again, I like the idea of him. I would like it more if it wasn't, it wasn't going to be 12% Greg Olsen week, because this guy's only getting 4 or 5 targets. So like you kind of need him to get in the end zone. And then I like Njoku. Cleveland KC is a really bad defense, and Baker's going to have to throw the ball. And I don't know how popular he'll be, but we shall see.
I don't think overlay compared to. We did have a question just related to Greg Olsen. Would you play Olsen more without Cam this week? No, if I use him, I probably will use Cam, just obviously for it. What I think we're both saying is just there's a lot of people that wouldn't have played him, but are because they want to. People like to pair up their quarterbacks, obviously, because it's a good thing. Cam's not as pertinent to do that, but people will still do it. And it's only Olsen, Funchess, McCaffrey, and people don't like pairing QB and running back. So Greg Olsen gets a lot of ownership where he wouldn't, just because of how good a spot Cam is in.
Yeah, Cam's a real outlier for that. Like, it's very strange to not want to throw at least 1 and often 2 weapons with your QB, and you don't necessarily have to do it.
My best teams last week were just Cam by himself. And
Tavis hammer,
Yeah, Tavis catching balls yesterday. Even the couple that he caught, it was just so frustrating to watch. But
yeah, he sucks.
Anyone else for tight end? I'm gonna throw out one extreme play. So let's not get crazy. But Chris Herndon on the Jets. He's getting some work. He can find the end zone. As you said, that game is a mystery in all senses of the word. He's had some tough draws. This is a much easier matchup against the Dolphins. I think the passing yards are going to be up. And if Enunwa and Robbie Anderson are still out, Chris Herndon quietly been not terrible lately.
All right. That's not crazy. Kyle Rudolph is a guy who I think is, a reasonable play. He's just a touchdown catcher, so you're hoping for that. He hasn't really got a bunch this year because the wideouts have been so dominant. But yeah, I'm not sure if that's great for him, to be honest.
Really?
Because Diggs draws so much attention on the outside, and then like teams will, put it all in the middle with Thielen and Rudolph. But
I was just thinking in terms of how many mouths to feed on the
yeah, definitely
around the goal line, because Diggs gets his, even though he's not that kind of guy, but.
Yeah, but he's picking up his 5, 6, 7 targets most weeks. He just hasn't really caught the end zone, and he does that sometimes. Whatever. I'm not actively pursuing him, but he's someone I would add to that portfolio. Defense.
So defense, kind of again, it's on a Bears island, which. This is Nathan Peterman's like the matchup in life. I'm probably not going to go to the Bears that much still. If it was in Chicago, maybe a little more. In the mid-range, I think there's a handful of defenses I like, nobody I love. Do you have one? I think the Redskins are in play. I think the Bills on the other side of that game are in play. Carolina, obviously, if you want to go against Fitzmagic.
I really like the Bears, man.
You're going to try to get up to 4,100?
I'm not going to have an issue with it. It's nice. Yeah, of course you like to spend down a defense, but it's Nathan Peterman, dude. Like,
no,
Khalil Mack's Khalil Mack's not had a very good season. It's probably because he's hurt, but like, the Bears are still you could have Khalil Mack, have his hands tied behind his back, and I still would like a defense facing. I would like Actually, no, Buffalo has a good defense. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like
the Falcons.
Yeah, Tampa Bay. I would play against Nathan Peterman.
Yeah, So I'll say this. Last week, and it's tough to project ownership with defense. The Steelers' defense was in some things like 60% owned. If the Bears' defense is going to be like that, there's no chance
they're
that
not.
I play
They're going to be like sub 10.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. There's people to pay up for. They're very expensive. People don't play the crazy expensive defenses. Everyone knows you shouldn't do that.
Okay, that changed. I'll take just gut feel. I think they will be over 10%.
Okay. I would give you odds on that. Like 10% is like I don't think they're getting close to 10%.
Well, that is something. And again, this is why ownership is really important. That makes them a hell of a lot more appealing. I was saying more if they were a chalk defense, I would take the savings.
I feel like it's Chiefs that are going to be the chalk, don't you? Like the Steelers were mega chalk last week. People are picking on Baker.
I thought that was more that they were 2,300.
Chiefs are 2,700.
Yeah, I played the Chiefs defense last week in Arrowhead, which I like a lot more. I have no interest, but I'm not on that wavelength as much.
No.
What about the Redskins? Do you have any love there? They're getting a ton of pressure quietly.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan, you talked about it. Not the same outside of the dome. And it's not to say I could see myself having some Matt Ryan Julio teams, but I really think the Redskins defense could put some serious pressure on him.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't really thought about that. Yeah, because Ryan is definitely a different player. He's, his whole, it's not just this year. This year it's looked extreme, but his whole career he's been much better indoors. It's easier to play indoors. That's true of a lot of people.
Yeah, the Bears are on the road, as someone pointed out. I think that does matter. Vikings at home, another one. There's a lot of defenses you can go to. It's similar to quarterback, and
I don't think it does matter for the Bears because I'm not interested in how well the Bears play. I'm interested in how poorly Nate Peterman plays.
But on the flip side, not that I'm saying, and we're going to get to that game on Sunday. I'm going to say some crazy things, but being at home helps Nathan Peterman immensely.
Sure, because people aren't yelling at him.
Yeah, and it just helps. I'm not saying he's going to play well because he's not, because he's terrible.
Yeah.
But that it's not that the Bears are on the road, it's that the Bills are home. That's all I was saying.
Okay. Yeah, I will say Bears being on the road, that's more points towards me on the under of 10%. People do not like to play defenses on the road.
Excellent point. I'm guilty of that. Heat playing defenses on the road. Boy.
That said, what do you think of the Chargers on the road? Joey Bosa's not walking through that door, unfortunately, but
I'm not on that. Russ Wilson. He looked good last week, and I know he holds the ball forever, and the Chargers are not on the mind. I couldn't get there though.
Takes a lot of sacks, bad offensive line, but also kind of knows the sacks are coming because he's dancing around. Like he doesn't really give the ball up. And that's what you need. Like you want sacks, but the real reason you want those is because it's a chance for the quarterback to screw up.
It's crazy to say this, but kind of to that point, Russ Wilson, they've had such a bad line for so long. He's almost become, I don't want to say he's mastered it, but like he's just used to that. So he doesn't suffer from a lot of the things that go along with that as much anymore.
Yeah, they won a Super Bowl with a horrible offensive line. It's not new.
In the bunker.
Oh, what about the Broncos? At home,
Deshaun Watson,
Watson, bad offensive line.
We're naming a lot of defenses here, and I could get on board with that too. We talk all the
just tries to force the ball to Demaryius Thomas in a revenge game, throws a bunch of picks.
And again, as it gets colder, those teams, I weight that maybe more than I should, but I think it does help to be in the elements at home, especially for teams that are from the South and domes. Like Falcons come to mind, Texans come to mind.
Yeah, I like the Broncos this week. I think they're fun. I mean, they're also $2,300 at home, and Deshaun Watson is really, can be really good, but it's a bad offensive line, and he's a risk taker. Those are the kinds of guys that can win you tournaments. Like, it would not be surprising to see Deshaun Watson accidentally throw one of those. Think about it. Oh god, it's glorious. I can picture it right now, right? You get the the little bubble screen to Demaryius Thomas, like his signature play, where he like just drags the quarterback 9 yards down the field afterwards. Like the Broncos know it's coming, right? They've been scrimmaging against Demaryius Thomas for years.
You really thought this out, yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking it right now, buddy, and I'm thinking pretty good. I don't know. I sort of like the Broncos. I will.
I'm with you. You've definitely gotten me on them just by. That's not one I had given too much thought to. I like that spot.
Yeah, and then the Panthers, I think too. Listen, Fitzpatrick's second favorite quarterback play, also like the second best quarterback to target on the slate.
Yes. Yes. Wow. We got into that.
Yeah, that was good.
Whew.
In-depth analysis on from A to B. We go from A to B. We went from A to B via X, Y, and Z. We went around.
God, if this cut gets to -3, I'm gonna cry. That will end all hope for me.
Oh, is Briscoe dead yet? Probably.
Yeah, he's dead. Real quick, do you want to do 5 minutes just talking macro college? And then we'll get out of here. What do you think?
Yeah, fine.
Sorry,
really, the Burgoon thing is a real problem. Real problem for me.
I'm not happy with the way the golf's turning out either right now. We do have some college football. As I say every week, drop in the Slack. This is with college. There's just not a ton of news. Stuff breaks. So find me in Slack. I will be there tomorrow. If you have more questions, you can hit me up on Twitter as well. 11 game slate. We're not going to get too in-depth here. There's just a couple games I just want to talk about real quick. Not even going to get into too many plays. The same teams have been on the slate, so we're getting familiar with them a little more. We got, out of these 11 games, Oklahoma State and Baylor, Syracuse and Wake Forest. Where's the other one? And Utah, Arizona State, that's kind of a secondary. But those two that I just mentioned, Oklahoma State and Baylor, going to be up and down. Wake and Syracuse, definitely options there. So you can go to those teams, look who's getting the production. Not going to, like I said, there's just, at this point in the season, you can just look and see what's been going on. Those are high octane offenses. The SEC's got some big games. I don't think they're the best to target.
What about South Carolina, Mississippi? That's got a 68 over under. It's a pick 'em.
So that one, yeah. I mean, Mississippi is the best team in the SEC for DFS in the sense their defense is atrocious. Their offense is very good. Quarterback, been good. They have that's Laquan Treadwell's alma mater. They have another super good receiver. They've got a pair of them, but A.J. Brown, who's 8,800, is a monster. I used him, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and he was just fantastic for me. Just expensive. That's all. On the South Carolina side, Deebo Samuel, I really was expecting to have kind of a better year. He's just not doing anything. Finding the end zone a good amount, but he just hasn't had those big, monster games, and it doesn't seem to be happening. The one guy, if you want to take a stab, Tyson Williams, who's their secondary running back, I keep saying his time is coming. He had 13 carries in the last game. This is a great matchup for not just him, for Rico Dowell as well, but I'm hoping that Tyson Williams starts to take that backfield over, and you could go there if you want to. Other than that, I mean, it's the same story. We don't have Kyler Murray on the slate, which I'm actually kind of happy about because it's just been him. And when the Houston guy is in there, it's hard to play other quarterbacks. You just have to play them at this point because they get 50 every week. It's wide open. You can mix and match. Find out who's playing quarterback for Georgia Tech tomorrow, confirm it, and I would look to them. Georgia Tech doesn't throw, as we've talked about, but they're playing pretty well. And, it's basically taking a running back who's going to get 40 touches. Last week, Tobias Oliver played against Virginia Tech, 40 carries, 215 yards, 3 touchdowns.
That's good, man.
Yeah, no, he got zero. He had zero passing, and that's what you're going to get. It looks like they're probably going to stay with him. I don't mind that. North Carolina's defense is not good. So,
What about my boy? Sorry, go ahead.
no, go, fire him out.
I was gonna say Lil Jordan Humphrey. I like that dude. I played him one time.
Well, yeah,
Guy.
yes, in absolutely. So Texas got a huge game. The one thing is Lil Jordan Humphrey's definitely good, but so is Colin Johnson. There's two of them. Another situation, Texas's quarterback has been a little banged up. We got to look to that, but I believe he's all good in the hood. They're coming off a ugly showing at Oklahoma State. Not that they got blown out, but they lost the game they shouldn't have. They need this one. West Virginia needs it too. That's going to be a battle. Don't mind that. And then the last thing I want to point out before we get out of here is if you want to be really aggressive, I think you can look to Nebraska. I've been doing that, and they're just a terrible team. But, man, J.D. Spielman is just perpetually not owned, not talked about. And Adrian Martinez, who's their true freshman QB, I think he struggles. But the weapons, whether it's J.D. Spielman or even if you want to take the cheapy running back, someone like Maurice Washington, who's the second fiddle to Ozigbo, I don't mind it here. I would venture to say these guys are not popular at all. But, man, Ohio State is – who knows where they're at this point. And, like I said, you're going to get – I'm just going to – I know you can't go right off the game logs, of course, but Spielman, this is his last 5 games in terms of points. 38.8, 38.9, 22.4, 21.9, 18.2. And he's 6,200. I don't really understand, to be honest. I know it's not a great spot, and Ohio State's much better than some of those teams. But this guy, he finds the end zone. He's a big target. I don't know. That's someone I'm just going to continuously play because I've been doing it when they're on the slate, and it's been working. He was like, yeah, I mean, he did get a little price bump. He was flat $5K for 2 of those, which was just ridiculous.
Yeah. And there's still, it's 73 points, 19-point spread. So there's still, was that 25, 27 points, something like that. They're still projected. So, I mean, that's like certainly room to score some touchdowns. I mean, they should score some touchdowns.
They're not getting, like, shut out. Like, Ohio State just doesn't do that.
Right.
But as the leaf blower goes outside my house, that's really all I got. I don't have too much. We have to wait and see how the lineups falls. Hit me in Slack. Look for injuries. It's that kind of year. A lot of teams are banged up. See where they're at.
Was that fist bump for Poston?
No. Poston posted -2. I think he might get cut. It was for Blaum. He found a birdie on the last.
Okay. Yeah, Poston made it interesting.
If Poston doesn't get in, I'm in big trouble.
Yeah, Burgoon not making it is big trouble for me. That's it's no fun.
Meh.
I have some really good lineups other than that.
That's all I got, though. This is a fun show, a fun Friday show for us.
Yeah, man. Marathon. Got lots to talk about.
There was, and there's a lot more to talk about, and there's a lot more behind the paywall. You see what I did there? So for people watching, we really do appreciate you hanging out with us and the likes and whatnot. But stop on by, get in Slack, try it out. Like I said, just try it out. If you don't like it, don't sign up. But it's worth a try. I think you will like it. You can talk to us. You can talk to a lot of other sharp people and see what you think. So it's good stuff. Let's go golfers. And good luck this weekend, everybody.